Hello, everybody. My name is Jacob King, and I am a professional wrestling ring announcer, commentator, and manager based out of Houston, Texas. And I am excited to introduce to you my new program, Rope Breaks, where each and every week I sit down with some of the best and brightest young stars in the world of independent professional wrestling today. Our very first episode features an interview with none other than the Renegade Wrestling Revolution's Vixens champion, Queen Raychell Rose. Raychell is a product of Booker T's training program at Reality of Wrestling down in Texas City, and she is one of the fastest rising young stars in the world of Texas wrestling today. I thought the interview was wonderful. It was an honor and a privilege to sit down and talk with Raychell for a little bit. I hope that you enjoy the interview as much as I did. Please like and subscribe our page on YouTube so that you don't miss any of our upcoming programs. We are sure to have some amazing guests in the next few weeks. I do want to apologize for the video quality on this particular episode. We've recorded this over Instagram Live, and there were a few hiccups, but I think the interview speaks for itself, despite the video quality. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our interview with the Queen, Raychell Rose. Welcome on. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
You going as stir crazy as I am?
Yes, I hate this.
Okay, good. Then we're all on the same page. Thank you for coming on. Whenever I was talking to Scott and everybody at RWR as far as who we should get on the program for the first guest, she's like, well, the most over person we have is Raychell, so get Raychell. So there we go.
I think I get the most reaction, maybe. I don't know that I'm very over.
Well, when we posted who do we want to see on the program, the first reaction was Raychell. So I guess that's how it goes. So that was actually the first question I was going to ask you. How do you respond? How do you deal with having such a dedicated fan base? Because I've known you for about a year. I think the first time I saw you was actually last January at the Rise event down at Texas City. And I've seen your work and I've seen how good you've gotten over the last year. But I've watched the people who follow you. They are dedicated, to say the least. How do you deal with being with accumulating that sort of fan base? How do you react to that?
It's a strange feeling to have any kind of following. I feel like I've been a very acquired taste my whole life. Either people really liked me or they really hated me. So I think it kind of translates to my fans. Like, if they are my fan and they follow me, then they really like me and they really support me, which is great. And then if they don't necessarily like me, they make that very known as well. So
yeah, I feel like if nothing, whenever you come out, regardless of where we see you performing, you always get a reaction, which I suppose is what any performer, any professional wrestler is looking for. Let's for the people who don't know you as well as I do, let's kind of roll back and talk a little bit about what got you into the business, what excites you about the business. So what was it that turned you on to professional wrestling in the first place? What was it that got you hooked?
I've been asked this a lot. I feel like it's a very it's like the question everyone asks of like any wrestler. It's like, what's your favorite color for wrestlers? Because everyone knows, like, at some point any wrestler started watching wrestling. But the thing that turned me on to wrestling was my dad. He's always been a fan, and it's kind of been on and off in our household forever. And then, so I always kind of knew about it. And then I think I saw Tough Enough on my TV once when I was scrolling through, and I was like, I think that's what my dad watches. And then I showed my dad, and he was like, yes, it's wrestling. And then he kind of like, from then on, we would like sit and watch it together, and he showed me a lot about it, and then I was hooked. So
yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people who get into professional wrestling through their dads. I know that's actually how I got hooked, although it was sort of ironic with my dad. My dad almost was kind of making fun of professional wrestling in a way of like, oh, look how silly this is. But he got me hooked because I was young enough to like, oh, I love these characters. I love how over the top it is and all of that sort of stuff. So I guess our fathers kind of pushed us in that direction. Whenever you first started your journey training as a professional wrestler, what was it? What was it that surprised you about working in this business the most?
What surprised me the most, I think, is the amount of like, I don't know if protocol is the right word, but like there's a lot of ritual almost like in wrestling, like things that everyone does and you're supposed to do, and it's like looked at as frowned upon if you don't, kind of deal. So there's a lot of rules and like things that you're supposed to kind of abide by, like the shaking everyone's hand, you know, respecting your vet,
Right.
things like that. So like some of that stuff was almost harder to get accustomed to than like the actual moves themselves, because I knew I was gonna have to learn moves. I wasn't as prepared for like the social aspect of it, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, I think the short time that I spent training, I was really surprised that I walked in the door and everyone kind of expected you to know the secret handshakes and the lingo and, you know, the unwritten rules right off the bat. I thought that was kind of interesting. So how long have you actually been? When was your first in-ring match? How long ago was that?
A year ago, a little over a year ago. It was
Little-
it was either, I think it was September or October of 2018.
Okay.
No. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I would have first seen you a little early in the game.
Yes.
Yeah, I've often, whenever people tell me, you know, who is it that you need to keep your eye on in the Texas scene, you're one of the names that I always bring up, because you know, whenever we first started, I talked about how you always get a reaction, and as far as workers I know that have undeniable confidence, you're that name that comes to mind. Has that always been something that did you just walk in the door with that kind of confidence, or did you have to like bring that out in yourself, or is that something that comes naturally to you?
It's a touch and go, because like once I get comfortable around people and my like surroundings, like I'm very outgoing and I'm very loud and I'm very talkative, and anyone who knows me, especially my trainers, will tell you I'm very loud and I talk a lot. But when I first started, I wasn't exactly that way, I don't think. And I was very nervous about everything. And I mean, like I did dance and I did things like that. So like performing for people wasn't necessarily a foreign idea, but it felt like a lot more like personal and a lot more like intense, and like me being up to a certain standard mattered more in the wrestling world. So there was more pressure on me, I feel like, and so I was a little more nervous for that. But I've never been like super shy around people like I get comfortable with.
Well, that makes sense. And you talked a little bit about your trainers knowing
My
your
dad's
personality.
watching.
Awesome. Well,
I just saw the comment.
well, hello to Papa Raychell. So you talked a little bit about your trainers knowing your personality pretty well. Who do you think had the most influence on developing your character as a performer, as a professional wrestler?
Oh, that's hard. My character specifically, honestly, as far as like helping me kind of like find my I guess like voice in the ring, like my persona. There's two people, I would say. Kiefer Bartek, whenever I was really, really new in the business, he kind of hired me on as his manager, and that got me used to like getting out there with different personalities. And that wasn't like the persona I stuck with, but it kind of started me on the track. And then I would say Hyon helped me a lot with my bad guy persona, just like getting comfortable in my own skin and finding what was natural for me and bringing that kind of out of me, because she always like pushed me, whether it was like in training or just like talking with her or reffing her matches when I was a ref, like right at the beginning. Her like heel confidence and like her persona was really like, I like attached myself to that for a second, and I was like, oh, that kind of want to do that. I want to be like that kind of like confidence and things, and so that's what started me turning into the queen, I guess. Was with her help as far as like persona specifically, because obviously like I've had a bunch of trainers and they've all helped me in so many different ways, but persona specifically, I would say Kiefer helped me at the beginning and Hyon's continued to help me.
Okay, I feel I can definitely see some of Hyon's influence in the way that you work your character magic, and you two work really well together whenever you've been paired up in any sort of storyline situations. Those are always fun to watch. As far as in ring, whenever you're actually in there working with opponents, working with people who trying to put together a match, who do you think you've gelled with the best in the short time that you've had your in-ring career so far?
That I've had matches against?
Yeah, who do you think as an opponent, whenever you're putting together matches, who do you think you've had the best chemistry with so far?
Just right off the bat, I would say Lainey Luck. Me and her are really close. We're friends, but even of my friend group, I think she's been the easiest to kind of stick a match together with, and that's been later in my career. I mean, as of right now. So it was to it at that point, but that match was really easy to put together. It was really fun to do. We didn't really have to talk as much in the ring, so that was really fun. And then I would also say my match with Shotzi was really easy to put together. I was really nervous for that match, and then once I started talking to her, everything just like from then on, it was like a super easy process, and like she understood everything I was thinking. I understood everything she was thinking. It was like a real matchup. So I would say those two.
Yeah, and I mean those are two really talented performers, so that's not really surprising. What do you think, as far as equality, what do you think it is that makes certain people able to go out there and put together a match that people really respond to? Because I mean, character is a part of it, but obviously people respond to the way that you tell a story in the ring as well. What do you think it is that gives people the ability to do that? What do you think the quality behind that is?
Honestly, I feel like matches that go well with the crowd, that the crowd gets really invested in, it doesn't have as much to do with how you put it together. Because like all the matches, any matches I've been a part of where the crowd got invested, it was like little moments, just like ring, and any matches I've watched where I've been invested, it's been the moments that they kind of organically happen. So it's like anything planned, like you can do moves and spots, and like obviously those will get crowd reactions, but like for crowds to get like the whole wave of like being involved in a match, I feel like that just comes from like the way you're flowing in the ring and the way you're working with your other person and understanding and listening to the crowd and what they want in the match and kind of adjusting while you're in there to kind of fit that story and what they're looking for and the payoff.
Yeah, and I definitely feel that that's 100% true, especially like if you look at the triple threat that you had with Insidious and Rok-C at Rise of the Vixens. You had all three of you had the crowd kind of like in the palm of your hand during that triple threat, because everybody knew what they wanted to see happen during that match. And I talking to the crowd after that event, I know a lot of people were not exactly happy with the outcome, but at the same time, I think they understood the story that was being told there. What was as far as that particular match, what did you go into that match wanting to accomplish, and do you feel like you were able to actually do that?
Honestly, that was my first match back from injury, and I came back a month early from when they kind of estimated I would be back. So to be completely honest, my main goal in that match was to get out of it safely and to get through this match without injuring or like proving to myself and like my body that like I am ready to come back and my shoulder is healthy. So that's what I was concerned with personally. And then as far as like the storyline, I just wanted the crowd to like believe that there was a reason any of us could have walked away with the title. Like I didn't want it to be like a black and white answer. Like I wanted there to be moments where they thought like, oh, it's going to be Insidious, or oh, it's going to be Rok-C, or oh, it's going to be Raychell, and just kind of like keep it revolving and like them not be able to predict what was going to happen at the end.
Yeah, and I feel like there definitely was an element of surprise there at the end. I don't think anyone was expecting it at least to go down in the way that it did. Going forward with that title now on your shoulder, who do you think you would like to face in the upcoming months whenever we are able to eventually get back to putting on shows? Who would you like to see challenge for that title?
Everyone. But
everyone? Not all at once, obviously.
No. I think of the people that I've seen like at RWR that I specifically haven't gotten a chance to be in the ring with, I would say Diamante would be a really good match, a really good challenge. She's an incredible performer, obviously. And I've never gotten the chance to be in the ring with her. So I'd be down to let her have a chance.
That's definitely a good option.
Does not deserve a match.
So. Yeah, the chat is saying that Pikachu deserves a match.
Well, the chat's wrong. They've been wrong before, so.
Let's talk about the Pikachu incident, because that's one of those things that I think people are going to remember for a very, very long time. When did you decide that you were going to shatter the hopes and dreams of children everywhere whenever you super kicked Pikachu in the jaw?
I mean, if we're being completely honest, I showed up that day and I got told I was beating up Pikachu. So like,
okay, but... So now we can spread the news that it wasn't your fault. You have nothing against Pikachu personally.
Look, in my humble opinion, I was trying to talk. I had a point to make. Kylie came out, interrupted me. Pikachu was with her. Rok-C comes out. It's a mess. And then I'm trying to talk to Kylie, and Pikachu just like is trying to like push me. Okay, first of all, no. So
Yeah, I mean, if we're being completely honest, Pikachu is one of the most overrated Pokemon, so he had it coming. But that was definitely
form. Talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, what's he even doing there? And that night was, I mean, that's definitely a memorable night. And there were so many memorable moments that you've had. And your path intertwines with Kylie in a lot of different ways. So I remember very distinctly the match that you had with Kylie at Reality of Wrestling, the famous Raychell Rose beat Kylie Gray moment. Tell everybody a little bit about...
Colton.
Oh, Colton's here. Wonderful. And Bryant is saying that Pikachu deserved it as well.
He's great.
So I think everybody really dislikes Pikachu in this chat room. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about how about your relationship with Kylie and how you two have kind of built off of each other, and what you've been able to learn from working with her.
Oh man, that's a long story. So Kylie was actually one of the first people that I met in wrestling. I went to a fantasy camp at Booker School, and she was one of the trainers that was working that fantasy camp, which is like a kind of like a one-day camp for fans or people who think they want to get into wrestling, and you do, just really basic stuff, and you get to roll around in the ring and learn some stuff. And Kylie was the girls trainer that day, and I was the only girl. So it was kind of just like me and her. And I had seen her before because I watched Booker's show. And so I was pretty excited. So from like that day, she kind of like, she just felt like, to me, it felt very much like she was like, all right, you're mine now. Like anytime I like wanted her to watch one of my matches or like help me with training or just talk to her about like other parts of the business or mental stuff, it was like she was always there. and we've had a lot of conversations about different things, and she's helped me a lot with like my perspective on things, especially the mental aspect of this. And so like before we ever got close to being in the ring together, she had already like helped me like gain that confidence and be able to be a part of this business. And then I got told like the week before that that's what was going to happen, was that it was going to be me and her. And I was so nervous. And it was one of the easiest matches I've ever put together. Well, she put it together, but that I ever like was a part of, as far as from putting it together to being out there. Everything just kind of clicked, and a lot of different things clicked for me in that match. And so it's always going to be one of my favorites, I think. And we've just been close, and she's just been a really good like friend and mentor since the very beginning. So.
And I love hearing stories like that, because you hear so much about how wrestling is this cutthroat business, how if you turn your back long enough, somebody's going to put a knife there. So whenever I talk to people like you, and whenever I talk to Kylie and Hyon, and really so many of the people down in Booker's school, they all talk about how y'all really lift each other up, and how you've helped each other and things like that. One of the things that I want to point out is Scott just jumped in the chat and said Raychell's probably the biggest influence as far as building the Vixens division at Renegade Wrestling Revolution here in Houston. And I think that that's 100% true. So we just want to take a moment to once again applaud the work that you've been doing. Everybody is super, super excited to see you carrying that belt, because I've said, you know, since we, for those of you just joining, I've said since we started this interview that when people ask me, who do you need to be, there's the belt, who do you need to be looking at as far as the women working in Texas, I always bring up Raychell, because she constantly brings something new and exciting and really confident to her performances in the ring. And there is no limit to the number of wonderful, like, out of control matches that we can have at RWR with you holding that title. So jumping back in, I wanted to ask you a few different questions about, you know, you won that title from Alejandra, and then you won the unification title. What does that moment feel like to you, to be able to stand there in the ring and hold that title? What does that moment feel like for someone who admittedly is very, very early, very, very young into their career? What does that feel like for someone like you?
I mean, it feels good. I think like anyone in this business, no matter where you are, like you get to hold a title and it feels good. I feel like it means, like, to me, it means like someone trusts me to be a major part of their company or lead a division, because of like the women's wrestling. Like if you hold a women's title, you're like kind of leading all of the women of a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot to like kind of think about. But I don't know, it just makes me feel proud. Because I am very young in my career, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunities I have had, and to hold the titles I have. And it's just very special, and it makes me very proud.
Yeah, and I know you've got that title over your shoulder, and we're looking to the future, hopefully be running shows again soon. What are some things that you would like to do moving forward? Maybe some things that you haven't done yet that you'd like to accomplish in your career? Like, are there any types of matches you'd like to run? Any dream opponents, things like that that are percolating in the back of your brain?
That's hard. Dream opponents, I would say, I really want to wrestle Jordan Grace. she's been in a lot of locker rooms I've been in, and she's always been, you know, very easy to talk to. She's always given a lot of advice, and then her matches have always been phenomenal, and she's a very special type of performer, I feel like. So I feel like we would have a really fun dynamic in the ring. So I want to wrestle Jordan for sure. Diamante, as I mentioned. Tessa Blanchard is a huge one I would love to wrestle. So yeah, I'd say those are my top 3. And then I just wanted to have matches that like make sense and like mean something to the crowd, like stipulations and stuff. Like I want them to, like, I mean, I'm not just gonna like be like, oh yeah, I'll do a cage match if like there's no reason for me to be in a cage match. Like,
I mean, there are some
Uh-huh.
people who just have it in the back of their brain that they don't, that there's no career that's complete unless they've done something off of a cage. I was wondering if that was one of the things that was in the back of your brain, or if you're like, nope, I'm cool.
Nope. I mean, like I said, if the situation, if I feel like it calls for it, if there's something between me and that person, if we've had multiple matches and haven't had a distinct, you know, winner or like whatever. But I'm not the type of person to just throw it out there that like, hey, yeah, let's be in a cage because that sounds fun. Like, no, I would much rather be in a traditional match. I feel like.
I mean, that makes sense. So whenever you are
Sorry,
thinking about, no problem. Whenever you are thinking about matches and how you want to put things together and the stories you want to tell, what do you think is the most important component of putting together a match that people will remember?
A match people will remember. I feel like it has to just, you know, you have to have chemistry. You have to have those moments like I was talking about. Like you have to get the crowd invested. Something, again, Hyon said to me really early in the game was that it's like a conversation between you, your opponent, and the crowd. And if you and your opponent are just screaming at each other the whole time, and then the crowd is like trying to do something, trying to get involved, but we're just going, and we're not paying attention to them, they're just going to butt out. They're just going to, okay, never mind. Because that's what would happen in a conversation. So you have to involve them. You have to give them moments where they can be a factor in this match, whether they cheer on the baby face to get back up, whether they get in the heel's head by talking too much shit and the heel gets distracted, baby face gets up, whatever. Like, I feel like you have to let them be involved and let them feel like they have like they are a piece of this match, and like their reactions do play a part.
Yeah, and you know, I've said that I think that you're one of the better heels working today. What do you think it is that makes a good heel in modern professional wrestling? Because I've heard people argue that you can't get heel heat anymore. I'm like, oh, that's not entirely true.
It's not. I think it's like it's hard because like anyone could be a good heel if they find that like their persona, their like whatever they grab onto that gives them that personality. Like Kylie Ray, if she wanted to be a heel, if she found that moment, she could believably be a heel, even though her character is so bubbly and is so nice and is so charismatic. It just all depends on like the situation, I feel like. And you just have to make heel, face, whatever believable. So you have to like get the crowd to believe that that is truly how you feel, and that's truly where you're coming from, and that's truly how you feel about that situation or that person. Because if they don't believe whatever you're trying to sell, they're just gonna, if you get any heat, it's gonna be cheap on
Right.
them more making fun of you because they know you're playing a part than actually getting behind you as like, man, I just really want this bitch to lose.
Well, for you personally, how do you make the crowd believe that you are, you know, whenever you walk out and, you know, there's the queen, what is it that you do to make them truly believe that that is who you are?
I feel like there's a part of you that has to almost believe it. Like I very much try and get myself like in the zone before I walk out of the curtain, to where like in my head for those however many minutes I'm out there, like that's who I am, and I'm going out there to serve this purpose and to do what I need to do, kind of deal. So I feel like I get the crowd to believe me as a heel, because the crowd believes my baby faces or my good guys or the people I'm in the ring against. You know what I mean? So it's a two-way street, I feel like.
Yeah. So you talked about having people believe in your baby faces. Who do you think is that you've faced so far is the best foil to the Queen in terms of babyface heel dynamic? Kylie? I'm not going to argue that point, because if there's like a flip side of the coin, those two I think really fit the bill. Is there, I actually we already asked that. I'm trying to think of things to ask you that maybe you haven't repeated ad nauseum over and over and over again, because I feel like every wrestling interview people ask the same questions, and I didn't want to start off with that, what got you into wrestling, but I felt like for those of the people that don't know you that well, I had to do it. We talked a little bit earlier on about how you were surprised at the rituals that come along with the pro wrestling business, and I agree with that. Have you come up with any rituals of your own? Is there anything that you're like, I do this every time before I have a show, or I do this after every match? Do you have any little superstitions or things that you do every single time that have worked their way into your repertoire?
The only thing that I think is like a ritual for me for pre-match is before I go out, whoever I'm in the ring with or whatever, that day, like whoever my opponent is or whatever, we always do knuckles or hugs depending on how close we are, and I say have fun, be safe, and then we go out, and that's it. Just have fun, be safe.
I feel like that's a good ritual to have, like, because I'm friends with a lot of people that are either coaches or players of baseball, and ritual and superstition is ridiculous among those guys. So I always like to ask people in wrestling what their rituals are, because some of them get really, really out there. So that one's kind of a good, nice one to have. It brings a good positive vibe. So I guess we can actually kind of start to wrap this up, because I don't want to take up too much of your time this evening. I know you've probably got stuff to do. I know you've been practicing backflips. Yeah. How's the backflip coming? Are you going to be busting out moonsaults whenever we come back?
I don't know, man. I might leave that to the more agile human beings out there.
All right. Well, I guess yeah, it's all fun and games until you misalign your nose on the floor or something like that. But just to wrap things up, I wanted to ask you if there's anything that you had, like a message for the people who support you, your fans, the people who have followed you along the way. Is there anything that you'd like to say to them before we sign off?
Thank you. It means a lot. It's a special feeling. Like I said, it's a very unique feeling to, get on your phone or the internet or go out places and have people know who you are for what you love doing. So it's a very special connection, I feel like, and I'm very, very grateful for it, because I feel like it. You connect with people in a way like you really can't outside of wrestling, and it's a good feeling. So yeah, thank you. I'm grateful. That's what I would like to say.
All right, we did have one last question come through in the chat. Now, assuming there was a mixed match at RWR, either as a tag match or one-on-one intergender situation, who are some guys you'd like to tangle up with in the near future?
I want to get in the ring with Connor Crunk.
Oh, that would be a fun match. I want to see that happen. Anybody besides Connor? Because I know I can think of a few that I'd like to see.
Well, you could say your recommendations after, because I want to hear those. But I'd say Connor. I'd like to get in the ring with GPA, but we agree on so many things, so I don't know that I'd fight him. But he's a phenomenal wrestler, so I'd like to get in the ring for that reason with him. Maybe as a tag team, and we can just like beat up other people. And then Ryan. Ryan Davidson. I probably need a partner for that one, but he's great, and I would love to be in the ring with him.
Yeah, I think I think you and Ryan would be actually a pretty entertaining match all the way around. I personally would. I'd personally love to see a match between you and Brian Keith. Is one that I would like to see.
Oh.
Let's we need to see if we can find some way to make that happen. And of course, I need to see you and Kiefer go one-on-one is something that I need to see happen.
I keep telling him, well, you gotta fight me in New Texas, and he won't. He just let me punk him like that, cost him his belt, on his birthday in his hometown, and he ain't do nothing about it. So I guess he's scared or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds like Kiefer. Well,
it does sound like Kiefer.
It does sound like Kiefer. I want to thank you again for coming on tonight. This has been a lot of fun, and it's been good to talk to you, especially because, like I said before we went live, this is the first time we've been able to chat where I wasn't within super kick distance. So that makes this a lot less. It makes it a lot less intimidating.
Well, don't ask dumb questions, so you won't get super kicked. I don't know what to tell you.
I have nothing but dumb questions. That is my brand. That's all I have left. Again, thank you so much for coming on. This has been great. I want to thank everybody who came by. I want to thank everybody who has been supporting RWR, and hopefully we'll have a lot more of chats like this in the future. Thank you so much again, Raychell.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode. I hope you had fun.